I took my 1 foot vertical from looking like this and barely being able to dunk to then looking like this and basically being able to hit any dunk that you can imagine. And I was able to progress like this without even being a natural 1 foot jumper. And today I'm gonna give you the 5 things that you need to be doing correctly in order to jump higher off 1 foot. The first thing we're going to cover is mass. Mass is how much stuff is inside something, and we measure mass by its weight. First, we're going to cover mass. Here are some pictures of the highest 1 foot jumpers of all time. And you might be noticing something that's the same with every single one of these athletes. They're all extremely lean and extremely light. And specifically, they don't hold a lot of mass in their upper body. This is different when you look at some of the best 2 foot jumpers. And as you can see in a lot of these 2 foot jumpers is they can all jump extremely high while having way more mass in their upper bodies when compared to the best 1 foot jumpers. This is because you don't use your upper body a lot when you jump off 1. When you jump off 2, there is a huge arm swing, and this arm swing can help generate some vertical velocity at takeoff. However, the arms don't move very much off 1 foot, and it's because the ground contact time is so short that if you have an extremely big arm swing, you might spend more time on the ground than is ideal. And if you have a big arm swing, you're gonna mistime your takeoff and throw off your rhythm, which is gonna result in a lower jump. 1 foot jumping is also more reliant on speed. The faster you run into your takeoff, the higher the reaction forces will be, and the higher theoretically you're going to be able to jump. As far as how to adjust your training to stay lean and not put on a lot of upper body mass, instead of doing a traditional upper body workout, I highly suggest you do circuit training in your general days. If you don't know what a general day is, here's a very quick overview on how I schedule my week out. I have high intensity days, and this is where I do my sprinting, my plyos, and my heavy lifting. And I do this about 2 to 3 times per week. And then in between those high intensity days, I have general days. And the purpose of these days are for active recovery and increasing my work capacity. As a 2 foot jumper, I usually just do normal upper body lifts, like benching, rows, weighted pull-ups, and that sort of thing. But as a 1 foot jumper, those lifts are more likely to get your upper body yoked. You don't want that. So instead, I like to do circuit training. And circuits is essentially when you do a bunch of exercises in a row with minimal rest periods and ideally with lighter weights. This helps with the goal of the general day, which is to increase your work capacity. This is a screenshot from one of the general day circuits that we use at THP. And then this is a screenshot of what the entire general day would look like for a 1 foot jumper. As you can see, there's 3 to 4 circuits that you do. We do 1 to 2 rounds of each, which by the way, if you want me to program these training cycles for you, go to THPstrength.com, and there you can sign up for my online coaching. The second piece of advice for staying light and staying lean is your diet. Remember, we saw the pictures of the 1 foot jumpers and they had like no body fat on them. And if you have more body fat than them, losing weight is a simple calculation. It's calories in versus calories out. And an easy way to make sure that you're burning body fat is by weighing yourself every single morning. This has been a tip that has helped a lot of people. Just by being aware of how much you weigh, you are more likely to make decisions that are healthier, that are gonna cause you to lose weight. This alone might help get you to the point where you need to be. If it's still not helping, I highly suggest using an app like MyFitnessPal to track how many calories you're eating per day while tracking your body weight, and this will give you a good idea of how much you need to be eating in order to either gain weight, maintain weight, or lose weight. Now for the second category of improving your 1 foot vertical, which is running. Running helps your 1 foot vertical a lot. And there are 4 categories of running that you should be doing as a 1 foot jumper. They are extensive tempo, intensive tempo, special endurance, and max velocity sprinting. Extensive tempo is running at 65 to 75% of your max effort for 100 to 400 meters at a time, with rest periods ranging from 30 seconds to 2 minutes. And in a total session, you want to be running a total of 1 to 3,000 meters. Intensive tempo is really similar, but the effort level goes up to 75 to 95% of your max effort. Here, the distances can be a little bit shorter, ranging from 100 to 300 meters, and the total volume is also lower, ranging from 600 to 1,000 meters for the entire session. Then we have special endurance, and there are 2 specific types of special endurance. The main one that we use is special endurance 1, which is running at 90 to 100% max effort for 150 to 300 meters. And you rest 6 to 10 minutes in between each set. And finally, we have max velocity sprinting. This is different from acceleration development. Acceleration development is usually from 0 to about 30 to 40 meters. But max velocity sprinting specifically refers to when you're upright at your maximum velocity. And there's a bunch of different ways to do this. You can do long sprints, or you can do short run-ins into 10 to 20 meter flies. And all these types of running have different goals, and you need to be doing all of them as a 1 foot jumper. As far as extensive tempo, intensive tempo, and special endurance, you want to be doing those on your general days. And it's better to do those early in the year. The whole purpose of them is to improve your work capacity, your aerobic endurance, your lactic threshold, your running mechanics under fatigue, and they're extremely good for improving your body composition. But there is one main reason why we like them for 1 foot jumpers, and it's because the ground contact times are really short, and these runs are very neurally demanding, which is very specific for 1 foot jumping. So you're essentially able to get a ton of highly specific ground contacts with minimal risk for injury when compared to actual 1 foot jumping or plyometrics. Then your max velocity sprinting should be done later in the year, and I like to do those as the first exercise on your high intensity lifts. And then early in the year, it's better to do the acceleration development, so there's short sprints. Now, if you're not used to running at all, I suggest by beginning with extensive tempo just twice a week, build up to special endurance over the course of a couple of months, and then you can start building in your acceleration development on those high intensity days, and then build that up over the course of a few months to max velocity sprinting. Now for the third thing that you need to be doing to jump higher off 1 foot, and that is plyometrics. Plyometrics are jumping exercises that train the stretch shortening cycle. The stretch shortening cycle is a very fast eccentric action followed by a very fast concentric action. An eccentric action is when the muscle is lengthening under tension, and concentric is when the muscle is shortening under tension. Stretch shortening cycles are in every athletic movement, whether it's jumping, running, or throwing. And there are different types of plyometrics. The most specific and most potent plyometric that you need to be doing is the actual task that you're trying to improve, which for us is 1 foot jumping. So you need to be getting high quality, max effort 1 foot jumps 1 to 2 times per week. Then you have your traditional plyometric exercises. And these are very, very good for 1 foot jumping because they allow you to overload the eccentric portion of the jump. And an overload is how an adaptation occurs. An adaptation is just a change in your body, and we want to make changes that are going to make you jump higher off 1. The best plyometrics for 1 foot jumping are low ground contact time, high knee position, depth jumps, single leg and double leg hopping, and bounding. The more intense plyometric variations should be done later in the year after you've built a good base of strength training and lower level plyometrics. And one thing to keep in mind is that plyos are very neurally demanding, so they're gonna induce a lot of fatigue. A very important thing to note with plyometrics, the ground contact time should be very short. I suggest being in the 0.18 to 0.23 seconds of ground contact time range, and they should also be done at maximum effort. Having maximum intent recruits type 2 muscle fibers, which are the biggest motor units that produce the most force in the least amount of time, which is exactly the motor units that you want to be training. Plyometrics should also be done in your high intensity days, and they should be done early when you are the most fresh and can do the plyos with the most amount of quality possible. At this point, you might be getting a little bit confused on how you're even gonna fit all this into the same week, but I'm gonna give you guys what a sample week looks like in an early training cycle, in one of the middle training cycles, and then later in the year at the end of the video. And again, if you want me to just program all this for you so you don't have to think about it and you can just show up to the gym and do what's on the piece of paper, go to THPstrength.com and sign up for my coaching. Now on to the fourth thing you need to be doing, and that is lifting in the right way. When it comes to lifting for your 1 foot vertical, your lower leg is extremely important, specifically your calves. And most people neglect their calves when jump training. You need to be hitting your calves 3 times per week, getting at least 2 sets near failure in each of those workouts. And you need to be hitting it with very high volumes in the beginning of the training cycle, and then lower volumes and higher intensity at the end of the training cycle. Basically go from lifting lighter with more reps to lifting heavier with less reps. Your posterior chain is also very important. Your posterior chain consists of the muscles on the back of your legs, which are mainly your hips and your hamstrings. The best exercises to train these muscles are hip thrusts and RDLs. And again, train them in the same way as your calves. At high volume and lower intensity at first, and then high intensity and lower volumes later. And finally, we have your quads. But the way we train them for 1 foot is a little bit differently from 2 foot. See, strength is position specific. If you train at a specific joint angle, you're gonna get strong at that joint angle, but not as strong at other joint angles. And when it comes to 1 foot jumping, the joint angle you wanna be very strong at is a quarter and a half squat position. So you need to be doing quarter and half squats. 1 foot lifts are also very specific, such as step ups and any lunge variation. And finally, our power work. These are exercises that improve your rate of force development. To explain what rate of force development is, first I'm going to explain to you impulse. This is a force time graph. The area under this graph is impulse. The more area is in there, the more impulse you have. The more impulse you can generate, the higher you're going to jump. It's a 1-to-1 correlation. And there are multiple different ways of increasing your impulse. And one of them is by increasing your rate of force development. So going back to the graph, you see that the force peaks at this point. However, if we can get that force to peak earlier with everything else being the same, you're gonna generate more impulse, which means you're gonna jump higher. And the way we improve our rate of force development is with what is traditionally called power exercises. And my favorite type of lift to do this is the Olympic lifts. But for 1 foot jumping, the best Olympic lift variation you can do are repeat hang cleans with a fast drop with straps. This is one of the lifts that every Olympic high jumper is extremely strong at. You get guys that are weighing 150 pounds that can hang clean 330 plus. So you wanna get really freaking strong with this hang clean variation. And now finally, before I show you guys what the weeks look like, we have fatigue. 1 foot jumping is very sensitive to fatigue. Fatigue is how tired you are. It's how ready you are to perform well. When you train, your fatigue builds. Your fitness also builds. However, your fatigue masks the fitness, so your performance is gonna be going down. So if you're jumping lower as you're training, that's actually a pretty good sign. Since 1 foot jumping is more sensitive to fatigue, it usually takes way longer to bounce back and to see your fitness shine through than 2 foot jumping. You can do a few different things to combat this. Now, traditionally, I like to do 4-week training cycles. So that's 3 weeks on and then 1 week deload. However, some athletes do better with 3-week training cycles. So they train 2 weeks on, 1 week deload. Then what I like to do with 1 foot jumper specifically is every 3 to 6 months, I like to taper them completely for a month straight. During this month, I just focus on getting 2 sessions per week and 2 very easy lifts per week. And by the end of the month, usually guys are hitting all-time PRs in terms of their 1 foot verticals. Now, as promised, here's a screenshot from one of the THP workouts in an early training cycle for a 1 foot jumper. Here's what a week would look like in the middle of the year. And then here's what a highly specific training cycle would look like later in the year. Now remember, the higher the specificity, there is more transfer to your vertical, but fatigue is also specific. So your vertical might be dropping off a ton when you get more specific, which is a little bit counterintuitive, but it's okay. If you find that you're super fatigued after those specific training cycles, then you want to be doing that month of tapering, and this is what a sample week from that month of tapering would look like. If you found this video valuable at all, please leave a like because it helps me a lot, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.